it's Emma, and welcome to Body Talk, where we have strong opinions about spas, saunas, and bathing experiences from around the world. I'm Sarah, your host. At Body Talk, we bring you spa and sauna recommendations so you can plan your next bathing adventure or get inspired to give sauna or bathing a try. We also feature interviews with experts and professionals in the bathing world and deep dive into your questions about bathing rituals and cultural experiences. Things like, what exactly is a sauna elf? What are the best spas in New England? And what's better, bathing suit or no bathing suit? Our name Badii, that's Badii, was inspired by the Swiss German word for bathing culture. We're American, but Body Talk was born from a love of Switzerland. Let's go. Today we're reviewing a wild sauna on Portobello Beach, that's Edinburgh, Scotland's Seaside. I'm Sarah, the founder of Badii, and I'm joined by my twin sister and resident of Portobello, Angie Spoto. Angie is an esteemed author who writes gothic fantasy deeply inspired by the Scottish coastline. Most recently, she's published The Bone Diver, a novel inspired by the selkies of Scottish folklore. And as a longtime resident of Edinburgh, Seaside, Portobello, she provides a valuable perspective on the sauna and bathing experiences in that area. Angie and I visited saltwater sauna when I was on my sabbatical in Europe. I had just left my corporate job and I was preparing to bring Badii to the US. I spent a few months traveling Europe, experiencing spas and saunas, and I'm really excited to bring you reviews and recommendations of the very best of the best that I experienced. You're not going to hear just a review of our sauna experience, though. You'll also learn a bit about a history of bathing in the UK and what makes a sauna a Finnish sauna. So let's get started. Portobello is Edinburgh's seaside. It boasts a very pretty promenade and a public sand beach, and it's accessible from Edinburgh's Old Town and New Town via bus. So it's worth a visit if you're in the city and you want to experience something that's off the beaten path and away from the crowds of tourists. Portobello boasts beautiful Georgian and Victorian architecture, and it has a really rich bathing history, which we get into a bit in this episode. Portobello also has this sweet downtown area with my favorite coffee shop in all of Edinburgh, Tonafiki, as well as a lovely local bookshop called, very fittingly, Portobello Bookshop. Here's a beautiful excerpt on Portobello from Charlotte Runcie's Salt on Your Tongue, Women and the Sea. I stepped down from the promenade at Portobello, with its iron railings painted the happy green color of pistachio ice cream, down to the level of the sea, to look it dead in the eye. Today, the sea is a mirror. And let's let the sea describe herself. I recorded the waves at Portobello this autumn, so take a moment, take a breath, and imagine you're standing on the shore of the North Sea in Edinburgh. Saltwater sauna is a mobile sauna available in Portobello and Granton. It's actually a woman-owned sauna. It was started by Kirsty Carver. They offer a few different options and offerings. So they have the community sauna, which is a 65-minute session for £14.50. And they also have a private sauna, so you can book it out privately. It's 65 minutes for £110. And then they also offer in really interesting guided sauna experiences as well.
I think also what's of note is they have community talking sessions and then community silent sessions.
Great point.
Yeah.
That's right.
So it's obviously more expensive if you're renting it out or if you're doing one of their rituals.
Yes, that's right. And the booking is for an hour long. And there is an attendant there as well. And it also includes tea, but we'll get into some of the details that are offered by Saltwater as we go through. But for the purpose of this review, what Angie and I participated in is we booked one of the community bookings, an hour session, not silent. So you were able to chat, and we booked it kind of in the afternoon, I think on a weekday.
Yep, on a Friday at noon.
Friday at noon. Okay, so what we do when we're doing these reviews, we like to look at things through the body talks lens. So we have a few points that are really inspired by, honestly, the Swiss bathing culture, which is where the body name comes from, and some of the tenets of that kind of well-rounded, uh, spa or sauna bathing experience. So what we'll do is we'll go through those points in this session, and Angie and I will have a discussion on if saltwater sauna fit them, and if we have anything we like, don't like, and like to see differently, so that you guys can plan your own trip to Portobello Beach to experience saltwater sauna. The first tenet of the body talk framework is cleanliness. And so the question we need to ask ourselves is, did you feel comfortable in the space? And would you walk around without shoes? We chose that because I think that's sort of a universal experience. If you don't feel comfortable walking around without, slippers or shower shoes, then probably not the cleanliness or the cleanest bathing experience. So Angie, what do you think? Did you feel comfortable in the space, and would you walk around without shoes?
Yes, so I did walk around without shoes. I did bring sandals, flip-flops, but actually really just for getting to the beach,
Mhm.
kind of getting across the promenade, to the beach. But yeah, it's so small, actually. It's really hard to say because, um, there's not really a lot of changing room space. So the changing room space is really small. I don't even remember what it was like in there, but I didn't feel uncomfortable, so it was probably pretty clean. The sauna itself was very clean. I felt like everything was nice, it smelled beautiful, um, everything nothing looked grimy, it looked quaint and fairly new, and the stove was really cute. So, yeah, ranks high on cleanliness for me.
I agree. I think the only part that was not clean was that, of course, if you're doing a sauna session and then you're running to the beach, jumping in the sea, you're coming back and you're tracking sand, they had a bucket of water where you cleaned your feet, which of course was a very sandy bucket, and then this path leading up into the sauna, which did get a bit sandy as well. So those were really only the two negative points at all on cleanliness for saltwater sauna. Otherwise, it was very clean. And I saw after our session, the attendant cleaning the space. They had rules around cleanliness. And so, yeah, I agree. I think it ranks high on cleanliness.
But I would say there were no showers available.
Oh, good point.
So, you yourself going in there and then the other people in the sauna, maybe, like, yeah, that's not normally, I think, what I'm used to is normally you rinse off
Mhm.
before you go into the sauna. I think part of that is for cleanliness, part of that is to purify, allow your pores to be purified, maybe. So, yeah, there was no sauna, there was the gardening, what do you call it? The
There was a
gardening
watering
watering can. There was a big watering can
full of icy water.
that you could use, which nobody used before going to the sauna.
Yes, that was really interesting. That definitely is a departure from most sauna experiences I have, where they're pretty strict about wanting you to shower, and there is also that benefit, to your point, Angie, of, like, opening up your pores and just cleaning out everything, and also it takes off any lotion or anything you have that might get on the sauna benches. So, that is a great point, no showers. Okay, our next point of evaluation is value. So, would you pay the same price for this experience again? And would you recommend it to your friends?
My answer is yes and yes. I definitely would. I thought it was a good value. It was probably 15.50 if we remember. Maybe it was 14 pounds, but something around there.
Mhm.
It was totally a good value. I think because it was clean and it was a nice sauna experience. They did have a lot of nice details, which I think we'll probably get into. And ultimately, it was great because, you could do a 15-minute sauna session, run across the promenade, jump into the sand, and run straight into the sea and then come back. And we managed to do 3 sea dips, which is really great. The hour felt long, which I mean, I think is a sign like that was a good value. So
Mm.
I thought it was good value. There is a Turkish bath in Portobello, an historical Turkish bath from the Victorian era that charges about the same rate, and it is not the same level of experience. It's in a big,
Yeah.
beautiful building, and it is historical and really beautiful on the inside, but it only has a steam sauna and a cold plunge and then some sort of lukewarm rooms in kind of a Roman style, and it's not clean at all, and that's all the same price, so I'm kind of astounded actually, like, that those are even, like, remotely the same price when, like, just the cleanliness factor and, like, the experience factor was so much more with the Saltwater.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've been to many saunas all over Europe and the UK at this point, and sorry to say, but the Turkish baths in Portobello are absolutely the dirtiest.
You don't wanna walk around with shoes. Without shoes, you feel so uncomfortable if you don't have shoes. Sarah knows because
Oh,
I took her there, I didn't have any extra flip-flops, and yeah, it feels like you're gonna get, like, fungal infection,
yeah.
and you know what? You probably will.
I
There's
did.
stuff
Side note,
there and yeah.
but it sure did feel that way, and that's not what you want when you're in a sauna or bathing.
And it was just a wet sauna, but I think that's maybe a a podcast for another day,
Yeah.
talking about that particular sauna. But it's you can't really you have to compare because they're right next to each other, like, really,
Mhm.
like, right next to each other on the promenade. But yeah, it's saltwater. Obviously, you get the opportunity to jump into the sea, so that was a really good value.
Mhm. The Turkish baths were introduced to Ireland and the UK during Victorian times. Sadly, only a few Turkish baths remain in operation in the UK today. The baths at Portobello are actually one of them. Uh, it's important to note, though, that the baths were inspired by Turkish hammams or steam baths, but they were not necessarily authentic to those cultural experiences. I'm currently reading up on the history of baths in the UK and in Europe, and I'm going to do a special deep dive body talk episode on the topic, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, and it really is Edinburgh's only sort of wild sauna type experience. I mean, wild in a with a bit of a caveat because it's right on the promenade where there's a lot of traffic, and we can talk about that because Angie and I have some opinions about that. But it is right on the beach as well, and you get to see the beach from the sauna, which is really important for a sauna experience to have that connection with nature. And it is the only one available in Edinburgh. Your other options are the Turkish bath or some of these like fancier gym or a more traditional kind of spa experiences. So, um, considering there are not many alternatives and it really is a great all around experience, I do say that it ranks quite highly on value. Okay, the third point is design. So, did you feel comfortable moving throughout the space and is the design inspiring?
So I'm kinda in the middle on this one because, yeah, the design outward design of the sauna is really cute. I don't know what kinda style sauna it is. It's not a I don't know what a barrel sauna, right?
It's
It's
not a
barrel
barrel
sauna,
sauna,
but
it's not. It is a wood-fired sauna, feels very traditional, um,
yeah,
and
it's really
maybe
quaint.
that's
It's really
yeah,
cute.
yeah.
So it's really cute. So it looks right to the sea. It's really cute. It's outwardly really nice. But then it was so we did the session for 6 people. There were 6 people in the sauna, and there just really was not enough space. So problem 1, right when you there's some slippery sandy steps that I thought I was probably gonna slip on as I went up. I had a vision of just, like, cracking my head on the steps as I was going up. So, not great, but that's fine. But then you get into this minuscule changing space, minuscule, which with a door right open to the promenade, which is very busy, lots of foot traffic, people on bikes, people running, people walking and chatting, really staring right into as you're changing. And you're changing with 6 other folks, so there's
Oh,
absolutely no
okay.
space. And there's no space even honestly for people's stuff. So that was not great in terms of design. And then unfortunately the sauna itself was too small for 6 people. So there was by the time we got in there, we were the last 2. There was only upper bench space. I mean, we're lucky because like we've done a lot of saunas and like we don't mind being in the
Mhm.
top, but where it's hottest. But if you had not done a sauna before, you'd be stuck on the top, and I think you would be a little uncomfortable because there was no space elsewhere. So I just think that's not a good design. Like, I think ideally, people who visit the sauna should be able to move up and down as they like. I think, it would have been nice for the people on the bottom if they had wanted to move up, but
Mhm.
they couldn't because Sarah and I were on the top. So I didn't love that. So it was actually too small. I'm really interested in how they run any kind of rituals in that space because I assume that they do it with 6 people
Yeah.
and someone performing like an Aufguss or something. And I don't know how they do it. It was too small, in my opinion, but cute in that they had a cute little porthole window. They had another like sort of long window, and then they do have the door open looking out to the sea, and obviously a glass door in the sauna, and then beyond that the door open to the sea. So the light was nice, but not the size. We should talk about the staring now, I think.
Yes, I would love to talk about that because I made direct eye contact with so many, you guessed it, men looking
Walking
in
by.
to the sauna on the promenade, trying to catch a glimpse of these ladies in these funny hats sitting in a sauna. I mean, had some folks like very innocuously like looking in and like curious about it, but some of them weren't like staring at the sauna. They were kind of talking to the attendant or looking at the signage, which I think is totally fine. Like they're curious about what it is, but there were like a strange number of people just, like, straight up staring into the
Directly
sauna.
staring s standing on the promenade, staring directly into everybody inside. Everybody can see them.
Yeah, and it feels like maybe because, like, there's a double-edged sword because it was this beautiful window to the sea, and it was facing the sea, the beach, and it was great, and you had such a beautiful view, and I think that's so important for a sauna experience, but at the same time, it was a very wide open door, window type of thing, and I think it just sort of invited people to look in. Um, Probably coupled with, "Oh, this is something interesting happening, on the beach, on the promenade," and there were a lot of people walking around. So, um, not a huge fan of that. Wish somehow that could have been resolved, but I'm not really sure in this case how they could get around that.
Yeah, the only thing is you could close that door, and then it would completely shut out the sea, and that would be a shame. So, I think that's just the nature of being on the wrong side of the promenade. You're on this if the promenade was behind you and you were, like, somehow on the beach, it would be fine, but that's not possible, not
Mm.
the case, so it's pretty busy in Portobello, especially on a Friday afternoon. I can imagine doing this on a weekend because on a Sunday afternoon, it's full of people, like, a lot of people, so it's not very private. I would say it's not a private sauna, probably, unless you're doing it really early in the morning.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I really wanna second what you said about design is the, size as well, because it was very tight for 6 people, and I understand why they wanna fill the bookings, but I do think it affects your experience when, to your point, you're not able to move low to high bench. Obviously, and we were chatting a lot with the people in the sauna, so it wasn't like we didn't have a good relationship with them where we could ask to switch, but, you're with strangers and, like, especially if this is your first sauna experience, you may not fully know the etiquette. So, I think that puts people maybe in a tougher position. So, maybe in an uncomfortable position, which is an important part of our evaluation of design. So, yes, but I do wanna give kudos to Saltwater Sauna for, again, being basically Edinburgh's only wild sauna and truly having a connection with nature that you just do not get when you're going to, like, a hotel sauna in the basement of a hotel.
Yep.
And I think that's important. Okay, so the next evaluation point is around details. What little things made the experience special? Angie?
They would Soulwire ranks high for me on details.
Mhm.
So, firstly, the attendant was there waiting for us when we arrived, and she asked us if we had ever been to the sauna before, and she told us some of the things that we might find useful if we've never done sauna before, like there are hats that you can wear, and the upper benches are hotter than the lower benches. Um, and so that was really nice. Sometimes you go to saunas and nobody gives you any instructions, and so I think if you're a newbie, it's really nice to have that. Um, the other nice detail was the hats, actually. I like
Mhm.
the hats.
I agree.
They had orange felted hats, like Finnish style.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Finnish style with the little brand on it. Cute. I've never done a sauna with a hat, actually,
This is my
but I
second
liked it.
time. I did it in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Ironically, didn't do it in Finland.
I did I didn't I can't say that I noticed difference in my sauna experience wearing a hat, but I liked wearing a hat.
I think I did because I was stuck on the upper bench
Well, yeah.
because of space and, like I mean, obviously, I do a lot of sauna, but still, it's pretty hot in there, and it's a proper Finnish sauna, so it's getting above 90
Yeah.
degrees Celsius.
Yep.
Um, I'll have to do an aside to translate that to Fahrenheit because I've been out of those states long enough to forget that
I couldn't tell
information.
ya.
But I think it's like 150 Fahrenheit. 90 degrees Celsius is 194 degrees Fahrenheit. But I do think it helped. I don't know if it's psychological. I mean, there is science behind the hats, by the way. Also worth another slide to explain that. But I thought it helped, and also, and we're starting to get ahead of ourselves a little bit to the next evaluation point, but it was kind of building some camaraderie with everybody to like,
Put on a goofy hat.
yeah, everybody did it, and everybody did it. I
Everybody
really
did it.
respect that.
It was cute.
Yes.
The other detail I liked, was she gave it there's no clock or anything, there's no timer, which I actually like to have a timer in the sauna 'cause
I
I like
agree.
to kinda push myself to, like, the 15 minutes, you know? But, she did come in the attendant did come in at the end to give us, like, a 12-minute warning, and she came in with, like, this cute little wooden plate with orange slices on it and gave everybody an orange slice,
Yeah.
and then she had a little bowls where you put your finished orange slice, and that was really nice. I've never eaten an orange in a sauna,
Mhm.
and it was cute, and it was, like, a nice way also to have her come in and tell us there was 12 minutes left.
Totally agree. Like, I love that because it wasn't like, "Oh, we're giving you a warning, 12 minutes." It was, "Hey, guys, have an orange," like a
Yeah.
refreshment, and by the way, you have 12 minutes, and just enjoy the next 12 minutes. So, I love that, and I have never been served an orange in a sauna. I've been served an orange outside of a sauna, but
Yeah.
not, like, in between sessions, so not during it. So, um, it was nice, and yeah, maybe so I guess
Oh, the tea,
yeah.
the tea.
Oh, the tea,
Because
yes.
so they do say, on your email, your reminder email that you get to bring in a cup for tea, which we forgot to do, um, which was no problem because they gave us these cute little disposable cardboard teacups,
Adorable.
and it was like some sort of herbal tea,
Mhm.
and yeah, it was nice. It was just nice. Everybody stood around and had their free tea, or tea was included. You didn't have to pay for it. It was a cup of tea after your sauna. It was
Yeah, I
really
really love
nice.
that. I really love that. It just, like, elevated the whole thing. The fact that they had those little details at all, and I felt like the details were so authentic. The hats, the attendant who was managing it, you could tell that they were cleaning pretty thoroughly between sessions. They really thought about keeping it like, creating a comfortable experience for everybody, and it wasn't the most premium experience of a sauna, and it truly doesn't matter because it felt so premium because of the details. So, I think that Saltwater Sauna just really rated very high for me on this one, especially out of all the more like mobile or pop-up saunas that I've done. I think they really thought through all those little details, and that what's made it so memorable to me. All right, our next point is around community. By the way, the reason that this is included, especially, is at this podcast, Body Talks is inspired by the bathing culture in Switzerland, which is also called Badii. And a big aspect of that is community. And that's true, of course, with Finnish sauna experiences and bathing in other cultures as well. I'm speaking from experience, having lived in Switzerland and been particularly inspired by the bathing experience there. But we wanted to include community as an evaluation point, which is certainly not going to be a big piece that all bathing and sauna experiences and spa experiences are gonna actually have. But it's important for us. So the question is, did you feel a connection with anyone else in the space?
Yeah, I did. I like that. I actually was not sure if I was gonna like doing sauna with strangers in the
Yeah.
UK. I thought I don't think UK people will be knowledgeable about sort of the etiquette of sauna.
Mhm.
I thought we're gonna be with a bunch of strangers, like, who are in a group, and they're gonna be chatting away and
Yeah.
really talking to us and talking too loudly and that sort of thing. Because we were doing the talking sauna, so I was like, "Ooh, this is interesting that they offer a quiet sauna and a talking sauna." Because I always thought you're generally pretty quiet in the sauna,
Yeah.
usually don't talk.
Yeah.
So I thought that, "Uh-oh, what's that gonna be like?" We got lucky because everybody else in the sauna, like, didn't know anybody else.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah, so that was actually really nice. It was all women, actually.
Also
Um,
nice.
no one from Portobello, interestingly. Everyone was coming from somewhere else, and, um, yeah, we didn't it was a really good balance because we chatted and were, like, friendly to each other, but we did not talk too much and no one talked too loudly. And there was also because you're jumping into the really cold North Sea in between your sauna sessions, um, everybody was like encouraging everybody to jump in and everyone's like, woohoo, when you came back after you jumped in and like
Yeah, I
that was
love
really nice.
that because, like, you could basically see the other
Yeah, you can
bathers, like,
run in.
run to the sea, and, like, you know that those girls were, like, cheering for you as you were going in.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't see it, but, like, you're like, "Oh, they can see us, and they're cheering." And then, and we went with another woman who was there alone, and it was her first time doing
Yeah,
sauna,
she
which is
came with
proud of
us into the sea every time.
yeah, every time we did 3 times. I mean, I think it was pretty intense, a 90-degree Celsius sauna and a sea bath,
But
and
maybe 10 degrees. It was maybe 10 degrees that day, 10, 12 degrees.
10 degrees Celsius is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Personally, 50 degrees is my preferred cold plunge temperature, as I still get the intense sensation, but I'm able to swim or submerge without getting a headache.
And she ended up going and she got further and further in and ended up
Mhm.
going in on the 3rd one, like, fully, and it was really fun, and we were like, "Okay, we gotta run in," and we ran in.
Yeah,
That was really nice.
literally ran.
Yeah,
It was
I could
very
see. Yeah.
cold, but it was great. Well, that takes me to my next point, which is joy. Did you have fun? Did you laugh? And by the way, a side note, I kind of added this into the framework because even though we're inspired by Swiss bathing culture, we're American, and Americans like to have fun. So, Angie, did you have fun?
Yeah, I did. I think because it's fun to run into the sea with people you don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's always fun, man.
Yeah, because it's such an adrenaline kick. You get in there and you feel and, a woman said to me, "Do you feel invincible now after jumping in the sea?" I was like, "Yeah, I totally do."
Yeah. And I even well, I made it I mean, I didn't do it on the first time, this is always the case, but, like, the second time, I swam a little, and the third time, I, like, laid on my back and, like, floated. I always try to do that, it's, like, the most intense, and it's pretty fun, and it was just, like, fun to encourage each other, and yeah, it totally felt like this definitely feeds into the community and connection piece of it, and I think
Yeah, it was fun.
yeah,
It was
I
fun. Had a
enjoyed
good
it.
time. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. The next point is nature. So, was nature a part of the experience and how?
Yeah, I mean, hugely because we were looking at the sea the
Yeah.
whole time and running into the sea. So, honestly, this on itself would be just, like, a totally different experience if it was not by the sea, and it was, like, a big part of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's called soul water sauna. It's all about the allure of that sauna is just going being able to hop into the sea in between your sauna sessions, so,
That's great.
yeah, all about it. But there it is Portobello's residential. I mean, you can look out the little porthole,
Mhm.
and you're looking at a
See a
bunch of
bunch of cars.
flats and cars,
Yeah.
and there are a lot of people walking by, but beyond those people is the sea.
Mhm. And it's just I mean, you're in the city still. Like, you're on the seaside of Edinburgh, but for those who haven't been to Edinburgh, you have the city center, the old town, the new town, and by the way, the new town is really old as well.
Yeah.
And you have the seaside, which is Portobello, and yeah, it's still quite city, right? Like, definitely. So,
Mhm.
um, I think for being a seaside option, or a city option rather, I think it did really well with nature because obviously you can go out to this Highlands or go out into nature in Scotland and get these experiences, but the fact that you can do it in Edinburgh, which I think is so great if you're a tourist and you want to have a sauna experience, and maybe you want to do something really different. Like you don't want to do a tour of Edinburgh Castle because that's not your vibe. You want to go do something a little different, different than other tourists, maybe get to meet some not exactly local people, but other folks like kind of in the area, and you can do saltwater sauna and get that experience and get a bit of taste of nature in the city. Um, so I really like that. And I think it's really important, in my opinion, to have a nature component in your bathing or sauna experience as well. Okay, and then the last part of our evaluation is culture. Did the experience engage with or express a specific culture and or history?
Yeah, so I had a Finnish feeling going to it
Mhm.
because of the hats,
Yes.
and I'm assuming it was, like, cedar.
Yeah,
Was it?
I believe so,
Yeah,
which is
smelled like cedar
traditional Finnish
sauna.
sauna. It
They had the stove with the rocks, which I think is also
They
Finnish?
did, it was a wood-fired stove.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a Finnish sauna. So what exactly does make a sauna a Finnish sauna? Originally, I expected there to be a sort of strict list of requirements on what makes a sauna Finnish or not, like a special type of stove or something, or certain materials. But in actuality, Finnish sauna is a culture. In fact, Finnish sauna culture is on the UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritage. This is what UNESCO has to say about Finnish sauna culture. In a sauna, people cleanse their bodies and minds and embrace a sense of inner peace. Traditionally, the sauna has been considered a sacred space, a church of nature. At the heart of the experience lies lolu, the spirit or steam released by casting water onto a stack of heated stones. Saunas come in many forms: electric, wood heated, smoke, and infrared. Approaches vary too, with no hierarchy among them. Typically, a Finnish sauna is a heated room where folks can relax and cleanse and literally bathe. The bathing part is critical. It is what us Americans would think of as a like quote unquote dry sauna, um, not a steam room, which I think is what some folks think of. Certainly, that's what I used to think of when I thought of a sauna. But that said, it isn't truly dry because throwing water on the stones is part of the Finnish sauna experience. Temperatures in a Finnish sauna are they're usually between 70 degrees Celsius and 100 degrees Celsius. So that's 160 degrees Fahrenheit to about 120, 100 or 210 degrees Fahrenheit. Also, in Finnish, sauna is pronounced sauna, not sauna, as I just said it. But at Body Talk, I pronounce sauna the American English way as, that's what's most understood by my audience. And that's how I grew up pronouncing it. But it's important to know and respect the Finnish pronunciation as well. If you want to learn more about Finnish sauna, we recommend the following materials, most of which are very beautifully photographed and illustrated as well. We have Nordic Magic. It's a book by Meri Mort. The Book of Nordic Self-Care by Elisabeth Carlsson. Sauna by Cozy Publishing. And also, there's this really nice site I have visited called finlandnaturally.com. They provide some really nice reviews of Finnish saunas, public saunas, and some other beautiful nature related and cultural facts and history about Finland.
The hats really sealed the deal for me on thinking that was a Finnish experience.
But I think like a lot of the details of it were, if not Finnish, like definitely Nordic. Because it was very similar to some of the experiences I had in sauna in Finland and Copenhagen. By the way, it's pronounced sauna, but I'm going to pronounce it sauna
Yeah,
because I'm an
I think that's a
American.
good idea.
But it pretty much mirrored a lot of my experience with that in the Nordic countries. So I would say it felt quite authentic to that, and it didn't feel really. I think this is really important, like really trendy because
Yeah.
you all know this. Like you've been seeing more and more sauna and thermal baths and all that kind of stuff pop up across the United States and the UK and where else. And some of them are just like straight up so trendy and so focused on being Instagrammable. And
Yeah.
saltwater sauna was not that. It just felt like these people really know sauna and sauna culture, and they're trying to give people that authentic experience.
Interestingly, and I don't know if the sauna itself is in conversation with the history of Portobello as a bathing
Mhm.
destination, but it is by virtue of being a sauna on Portobello Beach in kind of in conversation with that
Well,
history.
somebody in the sauna mentioned this.
Yes, she mentioned the bathing huts that would be the Victorian bathing changing huts that would be out on the sand, which we don't have, sadly, in Portobello Beach. We have no changing facilities except for a kind of dirty public bathroom on Portobello Beach at the moment. But in the Victorian era and through into the early 1900s, and later actually, because there was a pub, the largest Lido, which is an outdoor swimming pool with seawater in Europe up until the 1960s when it shut down. That was in Portobello. So Portobello was like a bathing destination for people for a long time, primarily in Scotland. And then after the World Wars, that kind of dropped off because people were now able to travel outside of Scotland. So you had a lot of people coming from Glasgow coming to Portobello Beach to do bathing stuff. So like the Victorians, yeah, were crazy about bathing. I mean, there was a resurgence in this idea that going to the sea was good for your health. So Portobello had a Lido, which is a big public bath. They had like the changing huts out on the beach because people were wading into the sea. So there, and then of course the Turkish baths, the
Yeah.
Victorian
How could
Turkish
we forget?
baths, Roman style Turkish baths. So all of that's there. You're really pretty close to the Turkish baths when you're
Yeah,
in
that's right.
Solon.
You are very close. I think it is worth mentioning that history because any sort of bathing experience on Portobello has to exist within the context of that. And you still get, in my opinion, like the feeling of some like Victorian heyday, bathing heyday there with the promenade and even like just the beautiful buildings on the beach that are all around where Saltwater is.
There are a lot of some Victorian Georgian buildings all around you. Um, yeah, so it is kind of embedded in the history of that
Yeah.
of Portobello. And then Portobello sort of no longer became a bathing destination and kind of wasn't so nice, I guess,
Mhm.
you know, for a while. And then so now we don't have a lot of the amazing like bathing amenities that you would they used to have in Portobello Beach, but now we have a sauna, which is nice.
Yeah, maybe we'll see more of a resurgence as these types of experiences become more and more popular. And I hope that as that happens, they are like Saltwater and that they're staying quite authentic and they don't feel gimmicky and they don't feel trendy. They just feel like really good quality sauna and bathing experiences on a very historic seaside in Scotland.
Yeah.
So that was all of the points we had in the framework. So I guess the question is, do you think that saltwater sauna on Edinburgh, Seaside, and Portobello Beach is Body Talks approved?
Yep. I think it's body tax approved.
I agree. I would absolutely go again, and I would absolutely recommend it to all of the listeners. So if you're in Edinburgh and you're planning a trip to Edinburgh, please add it to the itinerary. I think you won't be disappointed if you're a fan of sauna. With that, thanks to our listeners. Thanks to Angie Spoto for joining us for today's review of Saltwater Sauna on Edinburgh Seaside, Portobello Beach. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram at badii.life, that's BADII.life, and visit our website at badii.life. If you want to subscribe to our Body Talk newsletter, you can do so on our website as well. Tschüss.
Cheers.
You said it better. Tschüss.
Cheers.
Good.